Hello, everybody. Happy Friday. It is now a Friday live day, and I want to share something really important with everybody. I learned a very valuable lesson this past week, especially in terms of feeling for the intensity of the training that I was doing. This is very valuable information for several of you out there. I've also been helping out some clients as well that have been suffering with like long COVID and meeting their energy requirements, which has been a game changer in their particular lives and also in their performance outcomes as well. So, with that, I am here talking about fueling failures and endurance triumphs. So, from fueling failures to endurance triumphs, ways to utilize nutrition to optimize performance. And also, I'm going to be sharing a little bit about what happened to me this week, if that's something that you've been experiencing, so that you start to match what you actually need to help you with gaining your performance back and also gaining your vitality back. Because when you do have a chronic illness, it's really important that you're not doing something too crazy and you're really nourishing your body. So with that in mind, I'm going to introduce myself. Hello, my name is Drew Mulvey. I'm a certified dietitian nutritionist, board certified nutrition specialist, and certified integrative sports nutritionist, which I'm basically classified as an integrative health practitioner. I work closely with athletes for performance nutrition and also specialize in autoimmune conditions and disordered eating in athletes and non-athletic populations. I really help to repair your relationship with food. I really helped you to empower you, to help you to actually feel like you have control over your health and also with your athletic potential and athletic outcomes, so that you are really reaching your goals as well as getting the best quality of life and being able to do activities that you've always wanted to do. When you have energy and you're feeling vibrant and you're building confidence because you're actually achieving the goals that you wanted to achieve, oh, it's a game changer. I have seen that in my practice. I've seen that in my life, even in the past 8 months. It's going to be 9 months soon, but in the last 8 months with my recovery so my bounce back from an autoimmune condition to now being 4 weeks out from an Ironman 70.3. So with that in mind, again, if that sounds like you and you really want to hone down on crack down on what your nutrition could be and what maybe some obstacles that you're facing with your nutrition that you really kind of want to start navigating around and getting right and correcting, it really helps when there's a second set of eyes. So I'd absolutely love to speak with all of you. Please be sure to sign up for the icebreaker call. The link is in my bio. For those that are on Facebook, it is in my comments. All right, so some of the outcomes that I had this past week. Actually, it started last week too. I shared about last Wednesday that I was starting to take a step back because my heart rate, my resting heart rate in the morning was below 10 beats. So what that usually indicates, if you have your regular morning resting heart rate. So I usually check it in the morning because that is a good indicator of where your body is at. If you're recovering properly, you're getting proper sleep, just overall restoration. So mine is normally at 52. It's pretty much the same every single morning. As of last Wednesday, it went down to 42. And it was 42 on Thursday and 42 on Friday. It started to come up after Saturday, but then started kind of being finicky again. And then I realized, all right, I really have to take a step back. Now, one of my goals leading up to this particular triathlon, I did want to get back to my racing weight that I was about 2 years ago. But with that, I've actually been feeling a lot healthier and a lot better. So it's really been more for health outcomes. I've shared this a lot, that I have changed up my nutrition, that I have started to identify that certain foods in my particular nutrition plan were not agreeing with me, and I had to take some of them out. Now, it sounds like it could be restrictive, but when you build a self-awareness and a body awareness to know what works for you and what doesn't work for you, it's a game changer and can really help you to feel like you're in control of your athletic performance and also your health outcomes too. So especially if you have suffered with any sort of disordered eating in the past, I really do help you to find that balanced mindset that you know what that body awareness is, and you're, how do I say this? You're kind of separating that emotional response that you've had before. You really have that freedom from being in bondage from those mindsets and that food prison. But getting to that, I have been incorporating a modified paleo AIP. I'm still able to have some corn here and there, some soy, and some peanuts, which aren't usually allowed on a paleo AIP, but I have been incorporating that because I do fine with them. I've been taking away gluten, dairy, eggs, grains, beans, nightshades, and then I found out that I have sensitivities to oatmeal and salmon as well. So that was really helping me for a while, and that was helping to keep any sort of inflammation at bay. But even what I was doing, what came last Wednesday, it was indicating that my body was indicating to me that I was overdoing it in some sort of way. So I do track just to make sure that I'm getting enough carbohydrates or I'm getting enough macronutrients. Like I really try to be aware of how my body feels with particular foods. So then I really did a deep dive. I had been not tracking every single day, but then I started tracking and I was realizing that I was really under eating for the intensity of my training. So here's just a big picture. There are 4 different components to try and figure out for what your energy needs are. So that's going to be your basal metabolic rate. So that's basically how many calories that you're burning just doing absolutely nothing. There's the thermic effect of food, which can be between 6% and 10%. I usually make it 8%. 10% is more like protein rich, and then 6% is more carbohydrate rich. Everybody's like a nice balance. So I usually do 8% of what your basal metabolic rate is. And then the non-exercise activity quotient, that can range from 8 to 18% roughly of your BMRs added on top of that. But I usually just separate all activity. So that includes walking, that includes your actual activity too. So when you have those 4 components, then that is what they call your total daily energy expenditure is. Okay, so here we go. As I was logging, I was seeing that I was under 2,000 calories. And I've been trying to aim for about 6 grams per kilogram of carbohydrates, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit, what your carbohydrate needs are and why that helps with fueling your body. But I had been slightly under eating that and slightly under eating. So I know what my basal metabolic rate is, and I also know what the thermic effect of food is and the non-exercise activity quotient is, which puts me at around 1646. Now, for my actual activity, I've been working out for probably maybe some days it's an hour and 45 minutes, some days it's up to 3 hours. It really varies, especially on the weekends. I'm burning roughly about maybe between 700 and 900 calories just with my activity on top of walking. So I don't count the walking as part of your non-exercise activity quotient. I put that into your actual activity quotient. And when you figure that out, I was burning about, between 1,000 to 1,200 to 1,300 calories on top of that a day. And I was eating 2,000. So what's that? If you do the math, 1,200, 1,000, 1,200 plus 1,600, that's between 2,600 and 2,800 calories that I was burning through each day. So what was my body telling me? So normally in research, they do say that if your resting heart rate is above 5 to 10 beats, it should be 5. It should be 5 beats. Then that's an indication of overtraining. Now, I want to go into a little detail about this because it can be 5 beats over or it could be 5 beats under. Now, when I was struggling with adrenal dysfunction, hi from Indonesia. Oh, I'm so glad that you joined today. Excellent. All right, so heart rate, we're talking about heart rate, and mine was 5 beats below. So if it's 5 beats below or above, I know much of the research says if it's above, that could indicate overtraining. Why is that? Because it has to do with cortisol. So cortisol actually makes your heart rate go faster. we need a good amount of, well, I shouldn't say a good amount, but we need a certain amount of cortisol in order for our heart to function properly. So if you do elevate to 5 to 10 beats above your normal resting heart rate, that's an indicator that your cortisol is high, you're overtraining a little, and you need to take it back down. But what if it's in the other direction? So I have shared that I had adrenal dysfunction back in January, February, and my cortisol levels were low. So my body, when it's telling me that I have been overdoing it, decreases because it stops, I shouldn't say it stops the production, but it slows down the production of that cortisol. So that's why it forces me to slow down. If I can't slow down myself, my body has a system already. So what that was showing me is, okay, I've increased the intensity of my training. Something really has to change, or else I'm going to have to kind of tone things down a little bit. So with that recognition of everything, I realized, oh my gosh, I think that it's time that I need to start actually fueling for my performance. So what did I start to do? The first thing I started doing was eating at maintenance calories. So my caloric intake has been between 2,400 to 2,600 about, to make sure that I am meeting the energy demands so that I'm fueling my performance. I've really put that whole weight thing on the back burner because I'm 4 weeks out from getting to the starting lineup at Ironman 70.3, and I want to get there. Another thing that I started really focusing on as well, carbohydrates. So when you're an endurance athlete, carbohydrates are going to be one of your best friends. I know there is a lot of talk about ketogenic diets and low carbohydrate diets for those. It's a diet. That's what it is. It's pretty much a diet, but nutrition plans that can put you more into fat metabolism and fat oxidation. Okay. So I'm going to say the whole idea behind that with the fat oxidation. All right. So when you are burning fat can yield up to 96 ATP. So ATP is your energy molecule. And when you're burning carbohydrates, it's much less ATP. But your body is efficiently fueled. Like that's the main fuel source is your carbohydrate. So usually when it could be at 90, well, when you've done some sort of an endurance event or something and you just feel like you've completely bonked, that's when your body goes from carbohydrate oxidation to fat oxidation. And it can take time. So it's really hard to push through that. So yes, it might yield more ATP, but it's a heck of a lot harder to break down. So you really need to be fueled with that stored glycogen and with that stored carbohydrate. So how do you know exactly? Sorry. Okay, I'm back. All right, so how do you know exactly how many carbohydrates that you do need? Well, I'm going to go over this. So for those that roughly exercise like low intensity below an hour a day, you need about 3 to 4 grams per kilogram per day. Now, I do want to say that this is lean body mass, not overall mass. So it is very important that you step on a Tanita scale and you kind of know where you're at so you get these calculations right. So if you go up to about an hour a day, so that could be considered about moderate intensity, you need between 5 to 7 grams per kilogram per day. If you're working out between 1 and 3 hours a day, you need between 6 and 10 grams per kilogram per day. And then if that exceeds 3 hours, so that's 4 to 5 hours a day, you're needing between 8 and 12 grams per kilogram. And that can be very hard. And I know that from carb loading sessions, that it's going to be very hard to get up to that. So if you look at that in comparison to what I was doing, so they recommend 6 to 10 grams per kilogram for about maybe an hour and a half. And I was far exceeding that. So I realized, okay, I really needed to start incorporating a heck of a lot more carbohydrates. I've actually increased my carbohydrate intake to between 280, 300, probably even more. So we have meeting my energy needs and meeting my carbohydrate needs. So with those two, oh, and also another thing too, especially with those with chronic illness, particularly that I've noticed for myself, is that you have to meet your body's demand carb for carb, minute per minute. Now, what exactly does that mean? Well, it can be in terms of power output, but it's roughly you're burning 1 gram of carbohydrate for every 1 minute of exercise. So making sure that you're fueling properly before you go into your sessions. So say if I were to go into like a 30-minute session, then I would fuel 30 grams of carbohydrates, easy carbohydrates, before I go into that session. Now, if you need to meet your gram per gram, minute per minute, if you want to elongate that, you can do 60 grams right before if you know that you're going for like a 60-minute run, or if you know you're going to exceed that, then starting to have 30 grams of carbohydrates every 30 minutes after that 60 minutes. But that's also important, not only if you have a chronic illness, because you want to be able to help your body to be fueled and not for it to feel stressed out. But I do want to talk about with women's cycles. So I'm in my luteal phase right now. I'm actually a week before I'm supposed to get my menses. And during that time, during that luteal phase, your body is less insulin sensitive. And this has been in studies too, that your body is more in fat oxidation than carbohydrate oxidation. So what exactly does that mean? It's not going to be as forgiving for when you're doing longer events, unless you've really, really primed your body for it. But it's not going to be as forgiving, and you need to have that external carbohydrate source. So really, that is when you need to do gram per gram, minute per minute. So that's going to be about 60 grams for 60 minutes. Now, once that becomes over 3 hours, this is steady state. So if you're doing like a half Ironman or something like that, then after that 3 hours, that's when your carbohydrate needs are going to actually go up between 60 and 90 grams. Now, yes, this is going to be very dependent on your power output, but that's really, I would say, a little bit more relevant when it's in your follicular phase, because your body's actually able to oxidize those carbohydrates and utilize glycogen, not so much in the luteal phase. So you can get away with just having 30 grams of carbohydrates before a 60-minute run, and then you can start incorporating the 30 grams after that. That's why I love the second week of my follicular phase, because I feel like superwoman. But with that in mind, incorporating those carbohydrates are also going to decrease cortisol levels. And cortisol levels, once they are high, they can actually fatigue you a heck of a lot sooner than you would want to be fatigued. How about, you know what? Nobody wants to be fatigued, but they can fatigue you a lot quicker. Why is that? Something that I talked about before, cortisol actually elevates heart rate. And when your heart rate gets really elevated and going in more of those zones, your body's going to put the brakes on, and you're going to fatigue a heck of a lot faster. So it's really important that you're moderating the amount of cortisol that is being released in your body. I mean, you're going to have adrenaline and noradrenaline rush no matter what. But you need to be able to modify that, and then carbohydrates are really going to help with that. Plus, carbohydrates help with your metabolism. It helps with the generation of your active thyroid hormone from T4 to T3. So you need metabolism for breaking down proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. You need metabolism for thinking properly, for your heart rate. It's very important that you're getting those carbohydrates in. Now, when it does come to post-training, I really try to make sure that I have a protein in there. So what they usually recommend is about 0.3 grams per kilogram of protein, coupled with 1.0 to 1.2 grams per kilogram. So for instance, this morning after I went for my run, I had about 20 grams of protein, and which 15 to 20 grams of protein, which is actually a little bit more than a 0.3 grams per kilogram, and about 1.0 to 1.2 grams per kilogram. For me, that would be about, if it's a 1.2, about 58 grams of carbohydrates, even 60 grams of carbohydrates. But even before, I made sure I had 60 grams of carbohydrates, and then at that 1 hour mark, I started incorporating dates. So some of the easy things to incorporate: dates, raisins, bananas. There's some great gels out there. I love Morton gels. I'm definitely going to be using those like candy. Like I guess like a kid. I'm thinking of a kid with, oh my gosh, Sweet Tarts, was it? No, like the little Smarties, the Smarties. Just popping back the Smarties during the run. That's actually very important because that's your body is immediately using it and oxidizing it. So being in my luteal phase, I have to have that external source because my body's not pulling from glycogen as well. Um, when it comes to being outside of working out, then in your luteal phase, you still do want those carbohydrates, but more complex carbohydrates, as your body might be a little bit more less insulin sensitive. Your body's much more forgiving once it goes into the follicular phase. So that's days 1 through 14, roughly, if you know what your cycle is. Obviously, if you're in menopause, you're going to be in my position right now, where I am the week before my luteal phase, when your estrogen and progesterone drop. So you really have to meet your energy needs gram per gram, or I should say carbohydrate needs gram per gram, minute per minute, and that's really going to be beneficial for you to really help to decrease those cortisol levels and making sure that you have the protein and the carbohydrates within that 30 minutes of working out. Okay. All right. So with that in mind, some of obviously I made mistakes, but what were some of the outcomes that I have found? My heart rate, my morning heart rate stabilized. It went right back to 52, and my body battery was at 100%. I was able to I was able to keep up with the group this week. I wasn't balking. I was keeping up with the group. We were going up hills. We actually had a lot of elevation gain too, and I felt really steady. Like I felt like my body was actually incorporating the carbohydrates, even if I felt a little bit more lethargic. Yesterday, I think I might have underdone it a little bit, but now I am really kind of honing in on that body awareness. I also realized I did bring grains back in yesterday, and grains did not agree with me. That's why I felt so heavy today on my run. That's another thing too. Obviously, I need to just pay attention to the things that are going to work for me and not work for me. So that was one of the things that didn't work for me. But with all of this, I was keeping up with my group. I felt so much better afterwards. I've been feeling so much better. I've had more energy. I've had more, well, for the most part, more clarity. And I understand now that if I haven't fueled properly, then that's when I'm really going to start feeling it. This is really key for so many individuals because we tend to underdo it. Actually, we tend to underdo it because a lot of those applications, they don't take into account the thermic effect of food and the non-exercise activity quotient that is also a part of our total daily energy expenditure. And by adding those things in, that's really how you're going to optimize your performance. You're going to be fueling effectively. You're going to feel like you're empowered and in control of your athletic performance and also your health because you know what's going into your body. You're going to have the confidence and exhilaration of reaching your athletic goals, and you're really going to be transformed in your mind to finally be able to find that body awareness and those adjustments to be able to live the way that you wanted to live with energy and vitality and better recovery and better restoration and progressions every single week. Now, it's fine. You have off days, but guess what? Everybody does. So have some grace on yourself. Now, if I was able to find this for me, for coming from adrenal dysfunction all the way back in February and now to training for an Ironman 70.3, there has been so much confusion around this. And I know I have also struggled in the past with disordered eating. And there's been a lot of victory over that now I understand how to fuel your body effectively. Fueling your body effectively can build that confidence in you too, because you're going to start kicking some butt out there. And that's the most exhilarating feeling ever. I sincerely can't wait to be able to experience. I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was going to start crying. It means a lot to me to do this half Ironman. And I want to do anything possible to get to that starting line and to wave my hands above my head when I finish and cross that finish line. So there's hope for those of you that have been dealing with a chronic illness, that have felt like you've just been in a prison of feeling hopeless, like you're ever going to actually get over this, well, guess what? I was there 7 months ago and here I am now. And if I can do it, I know that I can do it for you too. So if this has really resonated with you, if you've really just had a lot of confusion about incorporating nutrition or integrative nutrition to really optimize your energy and vitality and recover better, have less fatigue, and really hone in on just having an optimal nutrition plan and plan for you, not only for just athletic performance, but longevity in your sport, I would absolutely love to speak with you. It's my specialty. I specialize in performance nutrition, and I also specialize in integrative nutrition for autoimmune conditions and disordered eating. So if this has really resonated with you today, I would absolutely love to speak with you. Please be sure to either send me a DM, or for those of you that are on Instagram, please sign up for that icebreaker call. It's a strategy call. Let's go over what you're doing. Let's see if there's some blinders that I can kind of help to remove for you so that we can really optimize your performance through not only nutrition, but taking an integrative approach. So that is for Instagrammers, that's in my bio. Be sure to click that link. For those of you that are on Facebook, be sure to click the link in the comments. All right, everybody. Well, I hope you all have a wonderful Friday. Again, my name is Drew Mulvey. I am a board-certified nutrition specialist, certified dietitian nutritionist, and certified integrative sports nutritionist, technically an integrative health practitioner specializing in performance nutrition for athletes and also disordered eating and autoimmune conditions for athletes and non-athletes alike. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that this has really filled you with a lot of knowledge and opened up your eyes as well as an open mind. All right. Take care. Have a wonderful Friday. Bye-bye.